Welcome to the Conduit Deeper podcast, a podcast that takes a deep dive into the details that surround our current sermon series, from current events to fascinating finds to conversations that take us deeper into the Word. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to the Deeper Podcast. My name is Mo, executive pastor at Conduit Church, joined with our lead pastor, Darren Tyler. And out of the gate, we should probably apologize for our lack of podcasting over the past month.
It does feel like an epic fail.
It's been a minute.
And it's not like we haven't had anything to say.
No fault of our own. I mean, I took a much needed vacation.
Yeah, so let's start with this. We're not apologizing for you taking a vacation.
No, it was amazing. It was great. Really good time with the family. Producer Micah joined us and his family. It was good.
And then I pinched a nerve in my neck.
And you were dealing with some health issues with your back and your neck. Then there's been some travel and some sickness and just schedules and so here we are. You know, we're doing the best we can with what we've got.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you want your money back for the podcast, go ahead and info@conduitchurch.com. We'll give you a full refund for the month for it. But we don't have subscriptions, so we're here when we're here.
Yeah.
But we have missed it too, and I have missed. I know that we have people that love and look forward to, which is actually kind of weird to me because I forget we're broadcasting. I feel like we're just having a conversation. But so for you guys that have been listening, we're sorry that we haven't been around for the last few weeks.
Yeah, peek behind the curtain. We were actually originally scheduled to not be here today due to some other scheduling conflicts and commitments, but we ditched those.
There you go.
Because we felt, for some obvious reasons, that we needed to get back behind the microphone and talk about what's happening in the world. A week ago today was the assassination, the murder of Charlie Kirk, which everybody has heard about at this point.
Yep.
And we're coming off of a weekend of a packed house here at Conduit. Many of our pastor friends across the country experienced the same.
Yeah.
Those returning back to church to help make sense of this. There's just a feeling of heaviness, a feeling of sadness, grieving. It's reminiscent, and we'll maybe describe the differences, but it's reminiscent of what the country experienced on 9/11, 2001, of which producer Micah and assistant Ethan weren't around for. That's 24 years ago, which was celebrated last week, or commemorated, I should say.
Observed is probably the best word,
last week. So it's reminiscent of that, where a national tragedy takes place and people respond. The difference is this go around as it pertains to an assassination of a conservative and religious figure, is that half the country either cared or didn't care about it.
Yeah, that is not a small distinction, right? Which is that 50% of the country, give or take, is not necessarily grieving this. 9/11, 100% of us were. We didn't know what was next. There was an uncertainty to it.
It was a common enemy.
Yeah,
outside of the U.S.
And this one is different because the thing that Charlie Kirk, that made him so controversial, I talked about this on Sunday, right, was that the New York Times even is reporting that 70-80% of the country all agrees that there's a problem. So the Bill Maher's of the world, even, like there's a problem in this country. So that we were united on. The solution is where we're divided, which is how you could end up with a 31-year-old father of 2 young children literally being assassinated, and I'm using the word martyred on purpose. He believed, and this guy killed him to stop him from speaking his beliefs. That's what is known as a martyr, and that's been an offensive word. And I'm sorry to those that have been offended or hurt by it. I don't mean to hurt, but the truth is the truth. That's the word. A martyr means someone shot for their political beliefs. But the college campuses, people were cheering, people were clapping, and I don't know what anyone else would call that, but that's actually called wickedness. Like the idea that there's two sides that are both just as bad as the other one. I think we could go ahead and dispense with that right now, that the logical conclusion of progressive ideology is why college professors were celebrating it. I mean, I can't think of a time, like when this Democratic senator, Congress in Minneapolis, or when someone on the other side of our political belief or religious belief systems have been murdered, I don't remember ever seeing people partying and cheering about it. You know, there's just some basic decency. But if you don't have a moral compass, and if life isn't valuable, which is at the core of progressive ideology, it's my body, my choice, right? Not that that baby has no rights because it's my body. So it's all about me, me, me. It's a narcissistic ideology. Then killing somebody doesn't mean as much to them, especially if they don't believe what you believe. They don't espouse it. And even when they shrugged it off so there were celebrations of it, which was funny because CNN, of course, is reporting, that's not, nobody's out there celebrating. And of course they 100% were. But that at the core of that alone is just pure evil.
And then they're taking it to social media, and I don't know what the updated number is. Last I heard, it was like 60,000 individual accounts of those celebrating the death online have been doxxed and then fired from their jobs.
60,000.
That was the last update I heard.
That. It's interesting.
I mean, so, and I think they forget that, yeah, you do have the freedom of speech, but also your employer has the freedom to not be associated with you if you say something like that.
Yeah, like if you're, it happened in Middle Tennessee. There was an assistant dean or assistant at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, that, some heinous tweet about it. You got what you. I can't remember what it was, but it was blaming him for being killed, and she was fortunately immediately fired for that, which I'm uniquely okay with because I don't want that ideology being indoctrinated into our student body. And so you think about it from the, why were there so many students who were cheering? It's because there's so many professors that were cheering. They might not have been dumb enough to say it out loud, but that's an ideology that's been indoctrinated into them.
There's a lot that we can talk about on this podcast, so we're trying to, choose the direction to go. I mean, some of the facts are that the shooter was a 22-year-old, Tyler Robinson, out of Utah. He attended the college that Charlie was at, which is Utah Valley, which I hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, it's not a major university, but like Middle Tennessee, it's a big university, but not a major university.
What's come to light is that he was in a romantic relationship with a transgender.
Yeah, with a man who thinks he's a woman.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm almost done using the word transgender because there's no such thing.
Correct.
But let's just say this. Let's set the tone. We don't believe there's any such thing as that because there is not, factually, biologically, which is one of the things that got Charlie Kirk shot. This is a theological statement. But we're going to go ahead and use it just so we can at least identify what we're talking about.
Yes, and what has come to light over the past week is that he seems to have association with that particular group of people. I'm trying to figure out how to even frame it.
Mentally disturbed.
Specifically online through Discord and Reddit, online forums and chats. Even more specific to the furry community. Are we familiar with the furry community?
I embarrassingly enough am familiar with that.
Oh, this is the deep depths of the dark internet. Yeah. And that is those that pretend to be or think they are a dog or a cat and dress as such.
Have they gotten added to the alphabet yet? The LGBTQIAF?
Great question. That probably the plus.
If I'm the furries, I'm marching on Washington right now demanding to be included in the alphabet.
I mean, this is a real thing. I mean, there are schools in this country that have litter boxes in their classroom for those claiming to be furries. Did you know that?
I did. And look, as awful and dumb as that is, at least they got to be house trained. If you're going to be a furry, I can't have you peeing on the carpet, you know? It's like, I mean, what if you're like a puppy furry? Do you get permission? Does your mom wipe your nose in it when you pee on the floor?
I mean, this is the group they associate with. Unfortunately, that furry group, they're very sexual in nature. Like they act out these things within that community. It's awful. The fact of the matter is that whole community, again, it's a deep, dark niche of the internet, but it's thriving, unfortunately. It is associated with trans groups and very associated with Antifa groups, of which a new term has emerged called Transtifa. You may or may not have heard of.
So I pride myself on being fairly aware of what's going on in the world, and I had not heard of this until you told me about it yesterday.
Yeah, and I think we're going to start hearing a lot more about it because the FBI is now officially involved in some of his communication with these groups on Discord servers, through Reddit forums, et cetera, et cetera. The FBI has identified, I believe it's 20 individuals within this circle of people who are also associated with or adjacent to a group in Utah called the SLCAQ. All right. And the SLCAQ is an emerging trans-Tifa group called the Salt Lake City Armed Queers. It sounds kind of funny, like kind of chuckle at that, but they're actually a militant group.
This is not an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. This is a thing.
This is actually real. And this particular group has a very large chapter in Salt Lake City. And these are trans individuals that are trying to stick it to the man, right? And rage against the machine, condoning violence. They're arming themselves. They're actually getting training on how to use guns.
Which is kind of sad for me. When I travel around the country, we travel in places where I have people that want to kill me. And obviously Islamic radicals, they know how to shoot, they know how to make bombs. Like they're, and by the way, the far right, guys that have done that, they're generally good rednecks. So that if you're really far right radical, you're dangerous because you actually know how to use a gun. I have felt a little bit of peace just because I'm thinking most of the trans guys, they don't know how to shoot, like it's but now apparently this guy has identified that that's a problem. So I need to teach him to shoot. And that's a problem. Yeah.
So the SLCAQ, I'm going to read a little description about them. Proudly align themselves with the Cuban government mission. So they've got ties to the Cuban government in terms of support and training. They traveled to Cuba this spring of 25, so just a few months ago, to meet with officials and learn from them. They trained queer activists and Marxists with firearms to, quote unquote, fight capitalism, based in Utah, where Kirk was assassinated. Okay. They have six principles that are a part of this particular group that is growing. They're uncovering, like the internet sleuths are uncovering so much about the underground that this is fresh. This is within the past 2 days. The FBI is officially involved in trying to figure this out as well. But this particular group, and there's many more like them, but the SLC, the Salt Lake City group, is one of the largest out west. They have 6 principles: the armed and militant protection of queer and trans communities and all oppressed people. Okay, that's principle number 1. All right. So they're using words like militant and militia and armed.
Right.
They
And
are
of course,
taking this very seriously.
And they define oppressed people. That's a very broad statement, but I'm assuming their definition of that is different, perhaps,
Very
than ours.
broad, yes. Number 2, the end of capitalistic oppression and exploitation, movement towards a socialist society. All right, so they're socialists. One of the shirts that has emerged of Tyler was a socialist group that with a logo on it. So he was tied in, seemingly, this is alleged and seemingly tied into this group, or a group adjacent to it.
At least the ideology
of it, yes. Number 3, trans liberation from the gender, binary, and biological essentialism, not assimilation. I don't know what any of that means.
They don't either.
Okay, that was a lot of big words. It sounds important to them, but I literally don't know what number 3 means. Okay, number 4, housing as a human right and basic necessity, not to be profited off of, put an end to landlordship. Socialist, Marxist idea.
Yeah, Marxist, nobody owns land. You're not allowed to own land.
Right. Number 5, abolish police and prisons as they serve as nothing but oppressors. I don't think we would agree with that.
No, I'm gonna give a hard pass on that because we need those guys. We need police and prisons to take these guys out.
Law and order.
Because the irony, of course, is that they're making themselves the police here now. They're making themselves the law enforcement. They're making up the law, and now we're going to enforce the law. So the hypocrisy is almost too much to bear.
Number 6, and again, I don't know what this one means, so bear with me here. Number 6, the end of bourgeois, assimilationist, LGBT organizations, the start of radical queer and trans organizing.
Read that again. So bourgeois is a French word for wealthy. So bourgeoisie, if you've heard that word.
Yeah, bourgeois. The end of wealthy. Well, we'll just swap words here.
So no more rich people.
Yeah, assimilationist, LGBT organizations. So the end of those, the end of their own organizations. The start of radical queer and trans organizing. So I think it's just, they're saying these passive or weak-minded LGBT organizations, we need to stop those and we need to radicalize and start organizing. They're taking this very seriously, clearly.
Is there any stat yet as to how many? Probably not, because this is so new. There's probably not.
I don't know. I don't know
how many there are. It seems like it's
daily new information. I believe Kash Patel, our FBI director, came out yesterday and said 20 individuals associated with these groups have been identified and are being investigated.
Good.
And the reason I bring any of this up is just to point to the fact that this generation of 20-somethings are looking for something to belong and matter to. And there is a segment of our young people that are finding community and purpose in that. And they're arming themselves, they're rallying each other for what they perceive to be truth. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. Well, the first thing we obviously got to do is just be aware. And then the second thing is to, if you're listening, especially if you're a mom, go ahead and exhale.
Yeah, deep breath.
Because Christ is still on the throne. This is a fringe of a fringe, and fortunately, it's being exposed right now. And so I feel like, for the purposes of our conversation, the idea is that we've got to continue to proclaim the actual truth, because if we don't, someone else is going to proclaim what they say is true. And fringe is, it's weird how much this feels a little bit like Islam and jihadists.
100%. And there's an argument being made online about that.
Oh, interesting.
And how these quote unquote fringe groups, these, whether it's the radical trans or radical Islam, how they're not that far apart in purpose and meaning and action.
Yeah. So inside of the Palestinian places in Israel, Hamas was grown out of we don't think Yasser Arafat is radical enough. And Yasser Arafat was the president of the PLO for years, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. But apparently blowing up innocent people at bus stops wasn't radical enough. And so Hamas was born. And they took over Gaza and so extreme right now that, and I've shared this before on here, but Abbas, who's the current leader of the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, Palestinian, he cannot go into Gaza without being assassinated himself because their version of Hamas, whatever, he's not radical enough. They literally just splinter into splinter into splinter of it. And maybe this would be a good time to bring this up because one of the things I've been seeing this last couple of days is this chatter from Candace Owens saying that this was a Israeli plot to assassinate Kirk. I know that a lot of people are still listening to her. I can't go there. She's lost me a long time ago. The thing about the red pill is you're only supposed to take one of them. You're not supposed to take the whole bottle. Like she's OD'd on red pills. So everything you just described, this is all communist-backed stuff. And because look, Cuba, they're not interested in homosexuals. They don't have rights in Cuba. But Cuba does have an interest in destabilizing the United States of America.
Yeah, like a color revolution. Cuba, Russia would be interested in that in America.
Yeah. They do not care an iota about trans rights in Cuba. That's hilarious.
Yeah, they're just using them as a proxy.
Yeah. It's literally, like the CIA has done for years when they use proxy armies. This is their version. Now, I got to tell you, this feels like this is Spinal Tap kind of version of this where we chose, like this literally sounds like a comedy. We chose the trans army.
I know.
To it, but it is real life like that. But what would be really helpful for you if you're scrubbing through the internet right now, there are so many theories and sleuths and trying to, and the irony of it pointing back to Israel, it seems, as best I can tell in Candace Owens' mind, every problem in the entire world can all be traced to the, quote, the Jews, which is literally a reverse identity politics, the very thing she has been decrying for however many years. By the way, I'm old enough to remember when she was a liberal, and then she became conservative, and now she's become whatever this is she is.
Yeah, I don't even know.
So, be that as it may, what I do know is this, and especially if you're a regular listener of us, we're pretty closely connected to people that are in Charlie's world, counseling and loving on his wife and his children and his parents. And any insinuation right now, when you're posting this stuff, like they see this, you are literally like breaking their hearts right now because they don't believe this to be true. And could you how about you wait until they have a chance to grieve? If you're Candace Owens and you really are a friend to Charlie Kirk, give it a minute, man. Let his family grieve. Instead of immediately chasing, it literally has felt like she's turned into a clickbait chasing, bottom feeding, whatever I can do to get more clicks. That's what it feels like. I don't know the motivation. I don't know her. Honestly, kind of nervous even mentioning her because one thing you don't want is her getting fixated on you because that's all she's going to talk about. So if you're Candace, I'm a nobody, don't bother me. But
yeah, I mean, it's her and a handful of people.
Yeah.
Ian Carroll can put in that list too. I feel like he's lost the plot a little bit as well. Just the fact that there is such a large push to find a conspiracy around this out of the gate and then immediately attribute that to Mossad or Israeli government is foolish.
Yeah. You don't have to be pro-Israel, anti-Israel, whatever, to even look at this and say, there's nothing in this that points to that.
Yes.
What you just read, right? Like this is factual information. There's an organization in Salt Lake City that's been training in Cuba
And the amount of videos that I've had sent to me from the event that are trying to find, like, they are the investigators of what happened. They send videos and say, the guy in the white hat and the white shirt and how he adjusts his hat right before Charlie is shot, that's got to be like the guy. It's like, no, do some critical thinking here. Like, everybody slow down and tap the brakes.
What do the kids say? Slow your roll.
Man,
Do they say that?
I don't think they say that anymore.
Okay, well,
but the man in the white hat is one of Charlie's best friends and mentor, Frank Turek.
one of the most profound apologists for Christianity on the planet.
And just witnessed his worst nightmare. He put out a statement on his own Twitter, his X account, to say, guys, like, I had clearly nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Everybody chill out.
So let's actually say that then, because if you're listening to this, maybe we get to lose listeners this week. I don't even know, but I hope not. I hope you hear my heart. This is shepherd mode. If you're a part of Conduit Church and you're accusing Frank Turek of being part of murdering, even if you did it on accident, now does that enough to say, okay, I need to give it a day?
Yeah. I don't think most people know that. They're just like, the guy in the white hat, he was an accomplice.
Yeah.
It's like, no, the guy in the white hat is his close friend.
Yeah, Frank is connected a lot, like with Lisa Childers and people in our community. And so I don't know Frank. I'm so grateful for his work. But I mean, it devastated him. He's literally in the middle of grieving his best friend being murdered in a horrendous way in front of him. And he's got to wake up to his Twitter feed being full of people saying he is some sort of FBI. He's given a hand signal. And,
Ridiculous.
It's like...
Same with the guy that was standing behind him, That's Mikey McCoy, his best friend, who's his body man.
Yeah.
His armed guard.
Rob McCoy's son, Rob, who was supposed to speak at Conduit on this Sunday.
And people attributing that he was some, signal guy as well. So anyways, it's really frustrating to think, okay, have we not learned anything over the past 5 years since the COVID era to where we have to look for a conspiracy in every single thing? Okay, yes, over the past 5 years, a lot of the things that we dug into came to light and became true, right? Like that meme that's going around is like, what conspiracy theory hasn't come true? You know, like we're up to like 187 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But out of the gate, we should learn that this takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that what I hope to convey from the pastor side. These are brothers and sisters in Christ. They have the internet too. And give it a second, because you're actually talking about real people with real families, real feelings. And I honestly can't imagine waking up to the fact that my best friend just got murdered and now I'm being accused of being a hitman by some other Christians around the country retweeting it. It's like the thing that is on my heart is, if you're a believer and you're uncertain and you're scared, one of the things I said on Sunday was, you know what? Pray before you post. And I had no idea this was coming, by the way, but this is a perfect example of that. You see it and you immediately post it. You see it, that's got to be something, give it a day, give it a week, but it took time. When it came to COVID, you and I when we were talking truth, we were looking at stats and numbers, making sure they were real before we said anything about them.
Yeah, data, collect the information, parse it out, critically think.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes some work. And I feel like a lot of the people on the internet aren't doing the work. They're just parroting an idea. And a lot of it is misinformation, disinformation. Like we've gone through this as far as the propaganda. And we need the far right, our Q friends.
Yeah.
I need to just take a deep breath here.
Yeah. We want to be part of the solution, not more of the problem.
Yeah. One of the things I felt like would be helpful, Darren, for you to maybe just dive into a little bit is just kind of disavowing some of the assumptions made about Charlie. In regards to, he's being called racist, misogynistic, his divisive nature, all of these words being thrown around, and, the left progressives, running through memorials and kicking over all the flowers and popping balloons and destroying it because they just totally disrespect him and saying he was a man full of hate. And I've watched hundreds and hundreds of his videos, and I don't come away with those words about him. Yeah. So why is that a thing? Why is it so divisive?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to simplify this. I'm asked for some mercy, but there seems to be two categories of people that there's the Christian side that hate him, and then there's just the secular progressives, and they hate him because of his ideologies. But let's start with the secular progressive side, right? He's transphobic, xenophobic, and the thing that what the half of the country that was grieving about, part of what I feel like we're grieving is that we suddenly realize in real time that if you think that a man and a woman is marriage, a natural born man, a natural born woman is marriage, the biblical definition of marriage, that's all Charlie was saying, right? If you're dating a girl and she has a penis, that's a boy. We believe that. Like, those are truth. That's truth. But to say that is considered transphobic, right? And so the ideology of progressive secular is that the sin is now my identity. This behavior is now my identity. If I'm having sexual relations with someone of the same sex, homosexuality, now I am a homosexual. That's an identity thing. And so when you see those words, and there's a lot of young people that really were grieving. Joel Kelly told me this. He said the thing that hurts the most is he was our voice. He actually showed us that we could say true things. That we're being told to not believe what I'm even seeing, but he gave us the courage. He spoke for us and said that if you're in your 20s, for the most part, those guys are saying that Tucker Carlson does not speak for us. We don't like him. And I don't know if it's his laugh. For me, it's the laugh. I don't know.
It's a great laugh.
It's not a great laugh. It's like, by his poor wife. Oh my gosh. But
I laugh every time he laughs.
Oh, it makes me mad when he laughs. Like, if I'm a comedian, that guy's in the audience, I'm going to ask him to leave. Like, I can't handle that laugh. But that's a personal opinion. It has nothing to do. I'm not talking about his character. That's an insult. I'm probably out of line. But Charlie Kirk spoke for a generation that told us, that generation, you can say the truth. Your parents somehow kowtowed to this. The millennials and the Xers decided that we can't say the truth. But if you're 17 years old and you're watching a man compete in a woman's sport and being told that that's a woman, and you can see it's not, Charlie gave them safe cover, so to speak. Courage is inspiring. Courage is contagious, right? So, to put it differently, he spoke theological issues into the political arena. And so the hatred, even some of the Christians hate him because he was too, quote, political. But gender is not a political issue. It is a theological issue. Marriage is not a political issue. It is a theological issue that has been made political. And so churches in the last 20 years, many pastors, in the name of reaching people, stopped saying things that seemed controversial. And the problem is, it's not controversial. It's just truth. Like, it's truth. So it's not controversial that the chromosomes you're born with is what, that's your gender. But they silenced it in the name of reaching people. And so what was modeled for the young generation was that's what we're supposed to do. And then this is the natural conclusion of that, is suddenly our entire country is silenced in it. And here comes this guy out of nowhere saying, not only can you say the truth, we need to say this because our political leaders need to stop making policies that are enforcing and making laws enforcing lies as truth, taking a political issue or a theological issue and making a law against that issue. Abortion. I literally never thought I would live to see the day where abortion was considered too political for a church. That's still befuddling to me, but that has been the case, right? So And I think that the grief, the feeling why so many people grieved, I had this people asking me this, why I'm literally crying about a guy I never met before. And it's the impact that he had on our hearts, that he was, someone's always got to go first, right? You know, the pioneers, and unfortunately pioneers, when you're settling a country, it's the pioneers that unfortunately sometimes lose their lives. You know, it's the settlers. And so where we are right now, by the way, as a church, is we get to be the settlers. He went out there, he pioneered something, and we are coming in now, and we get to build out a land of truth, you know, in theology. And of course, that's being called Christian nationalism, even by a lot of Christians, David French and Russell Moore and Julie Roys. And it's not Christian, it's a disparaging term, but it's just saying, hey, I want to live in a country where a man can't go into a bathroom where my daughter is. I don't think that's asking too much, right? That's not political, that's theological. But so the hatred, it's, to put it differently, Jesus said, if they hated me, they're going to hate you. So if you're surprised, some of the grieving and the fear is that, oh man, they really, I actually didn't realize how bad my beliefs were hated.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that's part of the truth that's coming to light, right? It's like he represented a lot of us.
Yeah.
He represented us. And from an ideological standpoint, a theological standpoint, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
The lines have been drawn.
Yeah. And the one issue that I'm literally nervous to even bring up, because it's just fraught with complexity inside the church, is the race issue.
Yeah, that seems to be the biggest claim against Charlie right now, is that he was racist. Of which, if you actually do your research and thinking and critical thinking and observation, that was not true.
Well, it sort of gets to the heart of one of the issues in our culture in general, which is, if you have a belief that a man can't be a woman, that idea, now you're being labeled as a transphobic. It's just a name that you've been, it doesn't, you know, how do I even know what that means? You know, I just believe something different. Now you're calling me a name and you've put me in a category. It's an identity politics in reverse kind of thing. And so in the race thing, we agree. I say I can't speak for the entire body of Christ, but almost everybody that I know, most preachers you see on TV, if you're white, we would agree and even grieve that racism in our country has been an issue, is an issue. We also, I have many black friends that would agree with me on this. The issues of the 50s and 60s, it's racism still exists, but it is very much improved in our nation. There are things that, you know, a black person couldn't go into a white restaurant. That doesn't happen anymore. Like we've never taken a chance to celebrate and agree with that, because what fighting racism turned into, with critical theory and some of these books that have come out more recently, that is, it's no longer about not being racist, but being anti-racist now. And so, and some of that is seeped in. And so this is where I'm going to ask, I call this stunt preaching. If I say this on a Sunday, I'm going to enter a topic that's very dangerous and hope to not get hurt and then get back out again. Theologically speaking, racism is a sin. No question about it. All lives are equal. Every nation, tribe, and tongue will be in heaven. That's the celebration of that's as biblical as it can be. And so what do you do when there is racism is the problem. That's their challenge now. What is the solution to it? And so what the government policies have been, they've taken this theological issue and made laws that were intended to correct that, enforce it, right? A black person being able to go into a white restaurant, black kids and white kids being in the same school, those are laws that would agree with the biblical, right? Those are legislative decisions that agree with theological positions. And then they started adding them to that, okay, saying it's not fair that someone isn't getting into a university just because of their color of their skin, right? We would agree with that if that's the reason why. And so the laws that were passed were affirmative action, for instance, and which was recently overturned at the Supreme Court, because what affirmative action said was, it's now racist against white people. If you're a black person, you should get a precedent over the white person getting in, and that is not, it is not constitutional, and it is also, by the way, not theologically sound. And I say that knowing that if you're a black person and you've grown up in this country, you do want justice. You do want, you want fairness and equality and all that. And I want that. But doing it with reverse racism is not the way to do it. To then get that hijacked, which is this is where it got. This is actually where it gets simpler to me, to be honest with you, because the LGBT, the alphabet soup, decided that we're going to use those laws for us now. So they literally hijacked that movement. And if I'm a black person, I would be furious at it, because race is actually a scientific. There's a science in it. There is no science in homosexuality. There's no science in transgender. But they're making an identity. They literally created an identity and then bootstrapped it to an actual identity. So one of the reasons that Charlie Kirk is against these DEI policies is the same reason you or I would be against them, right? Which is that I don't want to lower the standard at Boeing, right, so that a female gets the job over a male who is less qualified. Now, if she's just as qualified, then I don't have any problem with that at all. No problem with that at all.
Meritocracy.
Yes.
Based on merit alone.
Yeah. I have no problem with that. But doors are falling off of airplanes right now. And I don't know. Is it because that they've been lowering the standards to try to fit these DEI quotas? If you work in human resources, you know this. This is like a landmine inside of HR companies, inside of companies, because we're trying to make sure we make these quotas. And so one of the most recent ones was President Biden said, I'm going to, the next Supreme Court justice, I'm going to appoint a black female. He did not say I'm going to appoint the most qualified person. And so we got Ketanji Jackson, right? And when he became vice presidential candidate, the first thing he did was appoint a black female, clearly not based on her qualifications or her skills, based on that she was a black woman, which...
Yeah, minority.
And which is how she ended up becoming the presidential candidate, because they literally DEI'd themselves into a corner. This is the logical conclusion of this, is now we ended up... Yeah. If they would have had any other candidate, they might have actually been able to pull it off. So, in a weird way, I'm kind of thankful that he did this. But so that's what Charlie was saying.
Yeah.
And he was saying it on college campuses. And so for my black friends or brothers and sisters that might be grieving right now, because we're celebrating this guy because and you feel he's a racist, I'm sorry for the pain. I'm sorry the sadness, but at some point the fear of God has to override the fear of man. And as afraid as I am of getting friends of mine that might be mad at me for saying this, I fear God more than that. And I would ask you to consider that this guy was literally actually trying to fight for equality, but based on merit, not based on skin. That actually will benefit any race at this point. That was his belief. And any way you look at it, it doesn't matter. Even if he was crazy about it, you should never be murdered for your ideology. No caveat. There's no caveat to that. And so when you look at the complications of it, the complexities are basically in things that you can't really factually state. It's more a feeling than a fact with it. And it's why, to be honest with you, as a pastor, I'm kind of glad that we got this out of the way like 5 years ago. We're just going to tell you the truth and let the chips fall where they may, because I fear God more than I fear man. But if you're a pastor, that moment's coming for you at some point, because I know that right now there's pastors that are really they're in the wood chipper right now because they called him a martyr, and they have people in their congregation that are angry at them. And I would suspect some of them are going to apologize this Sunday, or have already apologized, but then the apology won't be good enough. And then someone's got to be punished for that. And so at some point you just got to say, this is true. You can't cancel me. I'm not playing. And I'm sorry for the pain or the suffering, but what is true. And meritocracy means the most skilled person should get the job. The most skilled person or the most qualified candidate should be universities. And are there going to be instances where one person gets overlooked over the other? 100%. That's the Genesis 3 world. We cannot legislate it on a micro enough level that does not cause unfairness to somebody else.
Yeah, even Charlie's, TPUSA employees that are African American they're clearly coming to his defense to say Charlie was not racist.
Yeah,
I'm here because I worked hard. He saw that.
Yeah,
hired me. Close friends. Believes in me. Believes in the truth and in the effort that we're putting out. They're having to defend him.
Yeah.
Vivek was way ahead of all of this. He put this book out. What was it, like 5 years ago now? The Woke Inc. Talking about all the DEI.
I've forgotten about that book. Yeah.
Yeah, and his whole thing is about meritocracy. This idea and
right,
shares that same belief, and because of that, that's where the misogynistic, racist claims come from.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So the one statement that I've heard the most, that when you hear it on its surface, you're like, ooh, and he made it. And by the way, I say things, as everybody knows, that could have been phrased better all the time. But he made a statement in one, I think it was in a debate, or I don't remember where it was, but the statement was, when I go on a plane and I see a black pilot, I sure hope that he's qualified.
Yeah, Charlie said that.
Yeah. And if I'm a black person, and so probably could have been phrased better, but the idea, what he was trying to get at was, I would say, send me the emails, I don't care. I think that when I see a woman on a plane, a pilot, I hope she was qualified, because I know they're making quotas. And by the way, I know there are some killer female pilots out there, so I'm not saying that they're not. I just am saying it better darn well be someone who actually met the qualifications based on skill, not based on gender. Mm-hmm. And the military has been full of that. When I saw it with my own eyes, when my daughter, who went into the Navy, we went to the graduation, and I think she's 88% muscle, which I didn't even know that was possible. She's clearly fit, but then there's some, guys and girls, bouncing around in there that I'm like, that's who's going to be defending our country? A little squishy,
Did you see the senator try to grill Cash yesterday about the push-up requirement for females?
Oh, no. Oh, so I didn't know this. No.
And it was a Democratic senator, I believe it was a senator or congresswoman, was pushing back on Cash the fact that there is a for FBI applicants, that there is a pull-up requirement for females that she didn't feel like they could attain. And he's like, I'm sorry that there is a push-up requirement or pull-up requirement for our applicants who are chasing bad guys in tough situations.
Yeah. That's literally the point. Like when you watch...
He was so mad.
Well, he should be. When you watch these military parades in China and Russia, these are physically fit, tough as nails qualifications. There's a reason why it's hard to be a Navy SEAL. Right? It should be. It better be.
But they cry for equality and inclusion.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do the equal work when it comes down to the actual guidelines.
Right. Well, and so to that end, there's the meritocracy piece of it, right? One of the things I loved about Jordan Peterson when he would speak about that, specifically in the gender gap, is, you really don't see a lot of women crying out for equal jobs being bricklayers. It's like, he has. I don't have these stats like he could on command of the amount of male-dominated workforces that you would never see a female fighting to get into because they just don't want that one. But when it comes to, like, for instance, the fire chief in L.A. that was that last year where, and she actually said that the guy that should have got himself out of the house or whatever. But it was literally like this whole DEI thing. Like, if someone's coming to my rescue, and I weigh, I'm a solid 225. I need to know that someone is there that actually can do the job to rescue me. And that's not sexist. That's not racist. Which, by the way, in that word, you could be black, brown, purple, if you're a dude, if you're a female. But, if you could pick me up and carry me out and save me, if you can meet the qualifications. That's why they don't have females fighting males in MMF fighting, because there's literally biological difference between a male and a female. That's not a sexist thing to say. That is a true thing to say. And so Charlie, that's literally what he would do. And I don't know if anybody else on the planet that would, or could, for that matter, literally set up a table with a tent on a college campus with no notes and have these conversations. And I have heard some of the, well, he was mean. You know, he wasn't kind, or he wasn't nice is what I've heard the most of. And I actually find that hilarious because I'm watching these conversations and I'm thinking I would be jumping up and beating that dude down. Like the fact that he could stay there and keep his cool and demeanor, but at the same time, yes, was he truthful? 100%. And you can be nice, right? Nice does not require the truth, but kindness is being nice with truth. And kindness is what Jesus was. Kindness is what John the Baptist was. All of the disciples were. They would speak the truth, even if it hurt their feelings. The standard is not, is it going to hurt somebody's feelings in the Bible, and shouldn't be in reality, but that has seeped into the world, seeped into the church even, that if it hurts somebody's feelings, if it's true and it hurts somebody's feelings, you shouldn't say it because it hurts their feelings. And to go back to the word martyr, we started out with, somebody said, well, if it hurts, why do you have to say it if you know it's going to hurt somebody? And the answer is because it's true. And that's the only reason. And I'm sorry that it hurts your feelings, but it's true. And I'm not going to, I'm going to say it nice, whatever, but they're not even saying you need to say it nicer. They were saying, why say it at all? And that's where I 100% draw the line. I know that I can be a jerk. I know that, I say things, I don't smile enough, whatever. But if that's the standard, is it true or not? And let the chips fall where they may if it's true. And that was the one thing that Charlie Kirk did. And what is beautiful to me that is being completely overshadowed, and we ought not to let it overshadow us, the amount of people who are coming to Christ is innumerable. People, our own church, we had a record attendance on Sunday. And this wasn't disgruntled people mad at their pastor who didn't talk about it because nobody had a chance to talk about it yet. These were people that were far from the Lord, had walked away from the Lord, had never had a relationship with the Lord. But they saw somebody be martyred on their phones, and it rocked them to their core. And they came to church because that's where they should have been able to find the truth. And I know that not all pastors spoke about it. I'm not Holy Ghost Jr. It's not my job. And I know, by the way, that I can't speak on every single issue that ever comes up. I mean, I would never get anything done because every issue, every murder. But this one I really felt was different because if everybody in your congregation is feeling it and you don't say anything about it, you're actually saying a lot by not saying anything.
Yeah, and I've been trying to process this myself this past week. And one of the things that's come to mind for me is I think one of the reasons it feels so heavy this time around is that it feels like the spiritual pierced into the physical in terms of warfare.
Yeah. And
like we've known that there's been this bubbling up of spiritual warfare across the world, in our country, and that we know as Christians that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and against powers and against rulers of darkness. We know that as believers. I think we forget that. But for someone to do what they did, how they did it, that's a very dark place to get to. I mean, it's heavy in daylight, in the most brutal way, in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
So it felt like the spiritual pierced into the physical, and we all got a glimpse of what's going on here.
Yeah, there's an actual war. This is not euphemistic. There's a war.
There is an actual war. And I think that's some of the grief that I know I've experienced is like, man, we just had a shift, right? And Paul talks about this. I mean, he talks about it in Ephesians 6, the verse that I just alluded to, Ephesians 6:12. But then he reminds us to be vigilant. He talks about standing firm.
Yeah.
And to put on the breastplate of righteousness and of truth and of faith, and to be vigilant. This is something they've been talking about. Paul's been talking about for thousands of years.
Well, for him, it was just Tuesday, right? Like they lived in a world where their brothers, their friends were being executed. You know, Paul himself would be executed. And I think for me, it got real quick. Because again, I've been in countries where we experience this regularly. This is
Other countries.
And the naivete that it would never happen here is really interesting. And I don't know how this ultimately plays out in the future, but I know that as a church, we actually have a lot to learn from our brothers and sisters who live in persecuted nations. Joey, people might wonder why we still had Joey, on that day talking about going to Eastern Europe. And
yeah, on Sunday he shared him and his family are heading to Albania.
Joey Prophet, I forget we're broadcasting. But he has literally been, like I have been, in countries where it's just part of the job description. You're signing up for being marginalized. You're signing up for being martyred or sometimes beaten. And I'm heading to Asia in a month to graduate our first class of church planters into the Himalayan mountains and the Hindu nations. And it's hard because I know that I'm sending these guys out into suffering, and it's
not a Christian nation, not a democratic nation.
No. And so we've been blessed, and one of the reasons that we've been so vocal about our own nation here is the one difference we have here is we actually have a vote. We have a voice that can influence this in the government. That didn't exist in Paul's time. This is what they call this the democratic experience, right? Experiment, because this has never been tried before.
Yeah.
And I want to participate in this experiment with Christian voices and Christian values. Call me a Christian nationalist, tweet me all you want. I don't care. I want human rights. I want equality. I want all those things, and I don't want socialism. I don't want Marxism. Those ideas have never worked. They never will work because they're from the pit of hell. And if we lose this society, I don't want to go down without a fight. And when I say fight, not physically, right? Spiritually and on our knees, but with our ideas and with our voices. And they don't have that option in most of those nations, but we still have it here. And while it still remains, what should we then do? And that is to stop being afraid, start speaking. And I'm not saying, being angry on Twitter, because sometimes that kind of frustrates me, because the way the algorithms work, when you feel like you're tweeting something, whatever, you're really just tweeting it to yourself or to your circles. You're not doing anything other than just, in a circle. On the other hand, outside an engagement, if you're a teacher, if you're a professor, if you're a firefighter, whatever, it might cost you your job. But what is the truth worth? When we started this out, you were talking about a James O'Keefe statement, right? If it's worth anything less than your life, then you are for sale.
Yeah.
And that's hard to hear. But that's why I read that Bonnie Keene statement on her post on Sunday, because first of all, I knew it was just going to go into her algorithm and not everybody would see it. I wanted to at least get it to a broader audience. And when she said, yeah, you can say my name, they might fire me, I don't care. We need more of that in the world right now. Not on Twitter, but in the real world. Mm-hmm. If you're a teacher, a professor, whatever your career is, we have to stop being silent. We can't live as if lies are true.
Not the only analogy, but an analogy that comes to mind for me right now, I'm still in the middle of coaching middle school football, which I don't know why I signed up for this every year.
Is that a long season to me?
It's 3 months of my life, and it's so many life lessons for me and for them. It is fun. I love the sport. But it just reminds me of all the kids that are sitting on the bench. They rarely ever get in the game. And it's because they're not prepared. Like, they don't even know where their helmet is. They don't know where their mouthpiece is. They forget. They literally, like, I had a kid. We had a game yesterday, and he's like, "Hey, coach, I forgot my jersey. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do." I'm like, well, you're clearly not playing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what you're not going to do.
Yeah, you didn't bring your jersey. But but then you put them in the game, and they don't know the right routes. They don't know the plays. They're so confused and they're just disoriented and they're like, I don't know. And it's like, all right, get off the field, put somebody in the game that's paying attention, right? It's like, I kind of feel like that's where we're at as a culture right now. And it's to use a big word, it kind of behooves us right now to know our word, like know the scriptures, rehearse it, practice it, study it, be devoted to those 4 things that the early church devoted themselves to, and actually do it. Like, be disciplined in prayer, be disciplined in the word, be disciplined in the fellowship with one another. That means having conversation and discourse, right?
Yeah.
It's time for that. Like, you want in the game, like the game has come to you.
Yeah.
So you're either going to play or you're going to be on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah, when you put it that way, we're talking about meritocracy in general. That's true in Christianity. You better be prepared. You better be equipped, and that's on you. I can prepare you to do the work of the ministry, but you got to do the homework. Your team. Let's talk about from a band. Like when a band comes to rehearsal. The word rehearsal, it means it has already been rehearsed.
They've rehearsed.
Yeah. Rehearsal is not when you come to learn the song. You already know it. Now we're going to come and learn. We're going to rehearse it together. We're going to do what we've already done. Yeah. And then you're going to go play it live.
Yeah.
And so that's what practice is, right? Like if those kids come to practice, that's great, but they better be throwing the ball every day when they're not in practice.
Yeah. And actually, I told the team yesterday, I was like, look, it was game time. I was like, we're going to play like we practice. Like, right, we're like, this game isn't just another practice. Like, the game actually should be fun because we're ready, we're prepared. Yeah. Like, we can get to go do this together.
Yeah.
It's not time for practice. We already did that. So now we're prepared to go to battle, right? And so that's kind of where I feel like we're at, where a lot of Christians showed up on Sunday. They're like, okay, man, I kind of been lazy on the sidelines, so put me in, coach.
Yeah.
Like, coach me up. Like, I need to know what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. And so here's your coaching right now, right? Like, so one of the things I tell Jason, our worship pastor, one of the qualifications if you're going to play in the worship band is that the first time you pick up your guitar that week is not Sunday.
That's right.
Right? Like, if you only pick up your guitar when you're playing it on Sunday, you're not a guitar player. You are someone who plays the guitar. Those are not the same thing.
That's right.
And if you are believing and you want to be in the game and you want to be equipped, you better get touches on the ball known as the Bible every day. Every day.
But because we just read that there is a group of people on the other side equipping themselves in all the wrong ways.
Yeah. And they're going all out. I mean, they're deciding it's worth their life, And the thing right now, especially, there is no excuse. The resources that are available online, honest to God, I don't know why anybody would pay money to go to seminary. It seems like if you're going to seminary right now, whatever, save the email, but you can learn everything you need to learn literally on the internet. It's available. Blue Letter Bible, Logos Bible software, Dallas Theological Seminary, Liberty. There are courses if you want to go deep on it. Yeah. But you don't even have to. These aren't even complex issues. You don't have to be Charlie Kirk with whatever God created in that brain. That was amazing. His wife must have been really lonely because that dude was nothing but a brain with a body on top of it. But you don't have to be that. You just have to have a command of the basics. It's the basics of the truth, and then you got to have some courage with it. But you don't have that if you're spending all your time scrolling and just the doom scroll. Stop that and start getting in the scroll and being equipped, and then speak. Just speak.
Yeah,
speak. And don't use the internet as an excuse and feel like you've done something. You hit your post and you go home. I'm really being bold and courageous right now because I posted it. Engage in conversations with your neighbors. Engage in conversations in your schools. And again, you may lose your job. You may lose your credibility. And that's how it's supposed to be. Like, that's not a bug in the system. That is a feature of the system.
Yeah.
They hated me. They're going to hate you. So I'll say this as the pastor, once I disabused myself of the notion that I was going to actually convince everybody that what I was saying was true, and I'm just going to say it instead, there was a lot of freedom in that. Because I spent so many years thinking, I just need to say it more clear. If I said it more clear, then And then I realized, oh no, they heard me the first time. They just didn't like it.
Yeah.
I just wasted so much time with it. But for sure, being equipped is every day in the Word. I mean, that's what did Jesus say? That my bread is to do the will of the one who sent me. Like you've got to be in the Word, doing the will of God, fearing God, not man.
Yeah. Well, we're anticipating another big Sunday this Sunday, as there seems to be, if we could be so bold to say, there seems to be a revival happening across the country, across the world.
Yeah, if you consider revival like hundreds of thousands of people who didn't believe in God or turned their back on God coming back to God, and that's what I would say it is. That's happening.
Yeah.
Movements aren't started; they're uncovered, and nobody started this, but it's being uncovered. There was a hunger and a thirst, and this was a breach in the wall. And like I said on Sunday, we could stand on the side of it and cower, or we could run into the breach and start being the conduit of Jesus for saving souls. I'm all in for that.
Yeah. And so because we're anticipating another full Sunday, those of you that are regular conduits, we're going to ask you to do something heading into this weekend. Would you register? Would you RSVP and let us know which of the 4 services you will be attending? Yeah.
And by would you, do it.
Yes. It really does help. We had something miraculous happen this past Sunday where we had our largest attended Sunday ever. And the attendance was split evenly 4 ways through 4 services. It was really a loaves and fishes moment for our parking lot. Somehow, some way it worked. But heading into these next few weeks where we feel like there's going to be a fresh wind in attendance and those hungry to be in church, we're going to ask that you RSVP. There's going to be a link in all of our social media, on our website, anywhere that talks about Conduit Church, you're going to find a link to RSVP. Would you do that and then come to that service that you signed up for so that we can spread out and then make room? What that's going to allow us to do is to make room, have some margin for those that are waking up and coming back to church and bringing their families and bringing their friends. It'll allow us some margin for that. And so we're going to do that this Sunday, ConduitChurch.com. You can find that information for what that's going to look like on Sunday.
Yeah. Because when we say make room for one more, we're not talking about making room for one more for someone who's coming from another church. There may be some of that, right? But we saw, we don't have exact numbers, but dozens and dozens and dozens of people making decisions to follow Jesus. Every new believer Bible we had, we gave out.
Yeah. The messages
I'm getting in my DMs of, I believe, I'm in. I feel it's literally. I've never seen anything like this in church. I mean, it's like there's good soil out there right now because the soil has been tilled. So if you will make room for one more, you're making room for someone to actually come to Christ. Like that's not just a saying to try to make you manipulate you. I am saying you are making room for someone to come to Christ. And if you register, that allows us to know, okay, we have X amount of seats here that we're going to leave open for those who need to know Jesus. So there is a very practical reason for that. We're begging, we're commanding, whatever, please, for the love of God, register.
Yeah, we want to make sure that you have a seat on Sunday. Until next week, thank you for joining. Thank you for spending time with us here on the Deeper Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, and we will be here again next week. Thank you.